A wealthy man discovers that his missing stepbrother may be hiding inside a terrifying apartment mystery. But what he finds will destroy everything he believes about his own family. After a woman is brutally murdered by a masked stranger, strange symbols begin appearing outside people's homes, revealing that someone has been secretly watching every resident. Desperate to find the killer before his own family becomes the next target, he follows the clues and uncovers a hidden passage connecting the apartments. But when he finally discovers who has been hiding in the shadows, he realizes the monster he was searching for was never the person he suspected. It was someone much closer than he ever imagined. But before we uncover who was really hiding behind the mask, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you never miss another shocking movie mystery. The film opens with a woman named Yoon-hee returning home late at night after finishing her shift. On the phone with her boyfriend, she complains about the harassment she faces walking home every night. She wants to move but can't afford to, and he isn't much help. As she enters the elevator, a man wearing a motorcycle helmet quietly steps in beside her. When the elevator stops on the third floor, both of them get off. Yoon-hee heads into her apartment while the mysterious man enters the unit next door. Inside her apartment, Yoon-hee tells her boyfriend that she suspects her neighbor has been secretly entering her home whenever she is away. While talking, she notices a shirt lying around that does not belong to her. Furious, she storms outside and begins shouting toward her neighbor's apartment, warning that she has installed a camera and will call the police on him. While checking the camera recording, someone knocks on her door. When she steps outside to investigate, she hears noises further down the hallway and notices her neighbor's daughter wandering around alone late at night. After telling the child to return home, she heads back into her apartment. As she returns to the camera recording, she sees footage of the helmeted man sitting in her chair and casually sipping from the drink on her desk. She freezes. The realization hits her instantly. Someone is in the apartment with her. Turning around, she is horrified to find the same helmeted man standing behind her, holding a blood-stained metal rod. She tries to escape, but the man violently strikes her across the head, knocking her unconscious before brutally beating her to death. The scene then shifts to a man named Sung-soo, who lives with his wife Min-ji and 2 children in a penthouse. Sung-soo suffers from an extreme obsession with cleanliness and cannot tolerate even the slightest dirt or mess around him. Despite his seemingly good life, he is haunted by a dark secret. One day, Sung-soo receives a phone call informing him that his stepbrother has gone missing. The apartment caretaker asks him to come collect his belongings from the building where he lived, which happens to be the same apartment complex as Yoon-hee. The following day, Sung-soo visits the apartment complex with his family. Leaving them outside, he enters his brother's unit alone. Inside, he notices something strange almost immediately. Alongside his brother's belongings are women's clothes, children's shoes, and multiple toothbrushes, signs suggesting someone else had been living there too. Disturbed, Sung-soo contacts the caretaker and asks whether anyone else lived with his stepbrother. The caretaker insists he always lived alone. Trying to learn more, Sung-soo speaks with the neighboring residents, but they all seem uneasy and dismissive. During this, he notices strange symbols marked beside every apartment doorbell. One of the tenants explains that the markings are used to identify who lives inside each apartment, how many men, women, or children live there. Sung-soo realizes the same symbols were also marked outside his brother's apartment. Meanwhile, Sung-soo's wife waits outside with the children in the car. The kids spot a nearby arcade game and beg to go play. Reluctantly, she allows them while she makes a phone call nearby. But the moment she finishes the call, the children are suddenly gone. Panicked, she searches the area before discovering them trapped inside their car with a mentally unstable man. As she angrily demands he get out, a woman named Joo-hee suddenly intervenes and manages to pull the man away from the vehicle. Sung-soo arrives shortly afterward and thanks Joo-hee for helping his family. She invites them into her apartment for coffee. While discussing, she asks why people like them would come to such a rundown place. Sung-soo explains that his stepbrother lived in the building. But the moment Joo-hee hears his brother's name, her entire expression changes. She immediately forces them out of her apartment and warns Sung-soo that his brother constantly peeks at her daughter whenever she's sleeping. Shaken by what he hears, Sung-soo decides to stay in his brother's apartment for a few days to uncover the truth. He sends his wife and children home while he continues investigating alone. Later that night, while inside the bathroom, Sung-soo suddenly hears strange noises coming from elsewhere in the apartment. When he steps out to check, nobody is there. But moments later, he realizes his phone has disappeared. Confused, Sung-soo becomes certain someone else is inside the locked apartment. He frantically searches every corner until he discovers a hidden passage connected to a neighboring unit. Following the secret passage, he emerges inside the murdered Yoon-hae's apartment. At that moment, Sung-soo realizes the terrifying truth. His stepbrother had indeed been secretly entering her home through the hidden passage all along. Elsewhere, Minji returns home with their daughter. In the parking area, she notices a man wearing a helmet silently staring at her. The man enters the elevator with her and secretly watches which floor she exits on. A short while later, Minji steps outside to collect a delivery package, leaving the children alone inside the apartment. Moments later, the helmeted man approaches the door and begins knocking. When Minji finally opens the package, she is shocked to discover it is completely empty. Meanwhile, the children call their mother in panic, telling her that someone has been knocking outside the apartment door for a long time. She immediately warns them not to open the door and rushes home. Outside, the helmeted man continues banging on the door and trying to force it open. When the noise suddenly stops, Minji's son cautiously approaches the door to see if the intruder has left. But the moment he gets close, a hand shoots through the small opening beneath the door and grabs his leg, sending them into a panic. When Minji arrives, she finds no one at the door, and the children let her in. However, as she steps inside, the helmeted man suddenly reappears and tries to force his way into the apartment. Minji manages to push him back and hold the door shut while screaming for help. Her cries alert a neighbor, forcing the intruder to flee before anyone can catch him. Sung-soo is informed immediately and soon arrives with the police. After checking the building's security footage, they discover something disturbing. The helmeted man had been following Minji the entire time and showed no interest in anyone else. The realization shocks Sung-soo. Convinced he knows who is behind everything, he tells the police he believes the man may actually be his stepbrother. Later, Sung-soo visits his lawyer, where more details about his family history come to light. Sung-soo was adopted by his stepbrother's parents when they were children. Despite being the biological son, Sung-soo's stepbrother inherited nothing from the family, while all the property was left to Sung-soo instead. It traces back to an incident from their childhood. His brother suffered from a skin condition that caused visible red rashes across his body. Because Sung-soo had an obsessive hatred for dirt and anything he considered impure, he had always been disgusted by his brother's condition. When his stepbrother was accused of harassing a girl, Sung-soo gave false testimony against him, driven by revulsion and seizing the opportunity to be rid of him. His lie got his brother cast out of the family. Ever since, Sung-soo has been haunted by guilt, suffering recurring nightmares in which his stepbrother appears to torment him. To cope, he regularly takes drugs in an attempt to numb the guilt and silence the memories. Now convinced his stepbrother is out for revenge, Sung-soo fears he is coming after his family. When Sung-soo returns home, he notices the same coded markings have now been carved beside his own doorbell. Realizing someone has been watching them, Sung-soo checks the rest of the building and discovers the same markings outside several other units. Elsewhere, Sung-soo's wife goes to pick up the children from school. She finds her daughter waiting, but learns that her son left earlier on his own. Alarmed, she checks nearby surveillance footage and sees him playing alone in a park. But standing nearby is the helmeted man. She immediately contacts Sung-soo, and the two rush to the park together. This time, Sung-soo manages to catch the stalker and violently attacks him before ripping off the helmet. To his shock, the man underneath is not his stepbrother. Overwhelmed by everything happening around him, Sung-soo finally snaps. Armed with a metal pipe, he storms into his stepbrother's apartment hoping to confront him directly, but the place is empty. Frustrated, Sung-soo returns to his car and notices another person nearby wearing the same motorcycle helmet. Suspecting it is his brother again, he immediately follows him. The man realizes he is being chased and takes off running, leading to a violent struggle between the two. But when Sung-soo finally removes the helmet, he discovers it is Yoon-hee's boyfriend. The two head back to the apartment and begin comparing information. The man explains that he had lent his credit card to Yoon-hee before she suddenly disappeared months earlier. However, the card is still being used regularly ever since. While talking, Sung-soo suddenly spots the helmeted figure standing near the hidden passageway outside. The two men immediately chase after him and end up back inside Yoon-hee's apartment. As they search the place, Sung-soo opens a closet and is horrified to discover the nurse's decomposing body wrapped in plastic and covered in blood. The corpse collapses onto him, sending him into panic. Yoon-hee's boyfriend freezes in horror at the discovery. Before either of them can react, the masked figure suddenly appears and stabs him from behind. Moments later, the killer smashes him with a heavy object, killing him on the spot. The attacker then turns his attention towards Sung-soo. A brutal fight breaks out as the masked figure repeatedly attacks him with a metal rod. The masked man figure escapes and Sung-soo chases after him towards the corridor. He fights back desperately, trying to remove the helmet, but the masked figure drives a knife into Sung-soo's leg, forcing him to let go. Just as the killer prepares to finish him off, Sung-soo grabs a brick nearby and smashes it into the helmet, barely escaping with his life. Bleeding heavily, Sung-soo stumbles into Joo-hee's apartment for shelter. Joo-hee is not home, but her young daughter is there alone. The girl offers him a first aid box. Since his own phone is dead, he asks the child if he can borrow one. The girl quietly leads him into another room filled with women's handbags, dozens of children's toys, and phones. She hands him a phone, and to his shock, it is his phone that went missing while he was in his stepbrother's apartment. Startled, he asks where she got it. The little girl calmly explains that her mother gave it to her and that everything there belongs to her. At that moment, the horrifying truth finally clicks into place in Sung-soo's mind. The person behind the murders, the stalking, and the helmet disguise is not his stepbrother at all. It's Joo-hee. The belongings scattered around the room all belong to her victims. Still reeling from the revelation, Sung-soo notices a half-open closet. As he opens it, he discovers another horrifying sight. His stepbrother's corpse concealed inside, wrapped in plastic just like Yoon-hee's. Before Sung-soo can react, Joo-hee suddenly returns wearing the helmet and violently strikes him across the head with a metal rod, knocking him unconscious. Believing he is dead, she takes his wallet and leaves with her daughter. Elsewhere, Min-ji begins packing their things, preparing to leave with the children to America for safety. She tries to contact Sung-soo, but he's unreachable. Outside, Joo-hee quietly approaches the apartment with her daughter. As they're about to leave, Min-ji's daughter suddenly develops a fever. Realizing she forgot her medication, Ji-hoo rushes back upstairs to get it, warning them to keep the door shut. Back at the apartment, Sung-soo calls her. He warns her that the killer is not a man, but Joo-hee herself, and warns her to get the children out immediately. Unfortunately, it's too late. Joo-hee is already inside the house. She strikes Ji-hoo from behind with a metal rod, knocking her unconscious. She then calls for her daughter to come out from hiding and casually begins unpacking the groceries she bought as if she owns the place. Meanwhile, the children in the car grow worried and call their mother. Joo-hee answers the phone and learns that they are in the car. She heads down to the parking lot and approaches the car. She tells the children to unlock the doors, claiming their mother sent her. The kids refuse. Joo-hee keeps pressuring them, but they won't give in. Her calm facade quickly slips, and she begins yanking violently at the door handles, sending the children into a panic. Joo-hee unlocks the vehicle herself and tries to grab them. The children narrowly escape and sprint back toward the apartment while Joo-hee chases after them. Sung-soo eventually reaches the parking area and hears the children screaming. Moments later, they run past behind him, but his injuries leave him too slow to keep up. The children make it into the apartment first, but Joo-hee slips inside right behind them. When Sung-soo finally arrives, she attacks him again, repeatedly striking him with the metal rod until he collapses unconscious. Joo-hee then resumes hunting the children through the apartment. Moments later, Sung-soo regains consciousness and desperately pleads with her to stop. He tells her she can have the house and everything, but she should let them go. He threatens to set it ablaze if she harms her family. For a brief moment, it seems she might actually listen, but then someone knocks on the door. The police have arrived. Panicking, Joo-hee immediately turns violent again, strangling Sung-soo and claiming the house belongs to her. Earlier, Sung-soo had noticed gasoline leaking across the kitchen floor. Left with no choice, he struggles to reach his lighter and ignites the fuel. Terrified by the spreading flames, Joo-hee desperately tries to put out the fire as it quickly engulfs her clothes. Within moments, she is completely consumed by the blaze and burns to death. At the same time, the police force their way into the apartment and manage to rescue Sung-soo and his family from the burning home. Sung-soo carries the unconscious Min-ji while their children tearfully plead for her to wake up. In the aftermath, Sung-soo visits the graves of his parents and stepbrother with his family, finally finding peace after years of guilt. It's finally revealed that Joo-hee's original target was never Yoon-hae. Her real target was Sung-soo's stepbrother. That night, when Yoon-hae had gone next door to confront her neighbor, threatened to call the police. She had no idea Joo-hee was already inside and had just killed him. Believing Yoon-hae witnessed the murder, Joo-hee killed her too. The masked figure from the film's opening was indeed Sung-soo's stepbrother. He wears a helmet to conceal his skin condition. After Joo-hee killed him, she began wearing the helmet herself to avoid suspicion. It wasn't her first time. Joo-hee had been killing people and quietly taking over their lives, their homes, their identities, without anyone noticing. Meanwhile, new residents move into the penthouse, unaware of everything that happened within those walls. And somewhere inside, Joo-hee's young daughter still hides inside a closet, waiting for her mother to call her out. After everything Sung-soo went through, he finally uncovered the horrifying truth behind his brother's disappearance and the killer who was hiding in plain sight. But the question remains, how many more secrets were buried inside those walls? If you enjoyed this dark mystery, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more intense movie recaps, hidden twists, and unforgettable stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.